Oxford grips installed. How do we do it? Let's jump right in. I know there's probably 1,000 different ways to do this, but this is what I did. I threw the included bracket in a vise, bent it 90 degrees, used a unibit to drill a hole the size of the mirror stud. And yeah, that's a factory touring seat. Pretty cool, huh? And it's gonna go right here, and the mirror's gonna hold it on. I decided that my other bikes, I have it on that side. And of course, on bikes without cruise control, you have to let go of the throttle to turn on the grips. So we're gonna go on the left-hand side on this bike. Let's bolt it together and see how it looks. I think that'll do. Looks like it needs a little tweaking, maybe this way. But the mount's fairly flexible, so and then this will just run underneath here and tie in with these guys. Yeah, we're onto something. I like it. On the Adventure Premium grips, you're gonna trim right down to that line. I use a razor blade and just worked it around. And then that should get you close to the right length. Yep, look at that. So let's space that out. Oh yeah, look at that. Magical. Now it's a matter of getting that off and that off. Hopefully that's not bonded to the tube, but I'm unfamiliar with how CFMoto does things. So now it's time to take off these grips and slide these on. Just loosen these enough to slide this out, right? So this is made, can you see how that, if you tighten that up, that's gonna shift and tighten up inside the handlebar, right? So loosen it just enough to slide that out, put it down out of the way. If you take the bolt all the way out, this piece is gonna be inside here. It's not that that's a big issue, you can get it out, but it's, I mean, why bother if you don't have to, right? So now I need to figure out how these are attached to the handlebar on this side. I'm assuming it's bonded, but we'll find out. Yep, I sacrificed a grip, only to find out that all I had to do was take a screw out right here, right? Check this out. The screw, if you peel this back, it's up top. The screw goes through the handlebar and into those threads. And you guys that already have tinkered with CFMoto or are familiar with them already know this, and yeah, I'm a dumbass, but anyway, so yeah, just peel this. This is on top, peel this back, take that screw out, the grip will slide right off. But I destroyed my factory grip, which no big deal. The tube is still good. I can always put some other grip on. And I didn't plan on using those anyway. I'm gonna use the Oxford heated grips. When you're mounting this, make sure the wiring is in a direction before you super glue this on, so you can still operate your clutch and flick your high beam. I trimmed about 1/4 inch off my high beam because every time you go to the clutch with gloves on, you would nick, it's about that long, right? You would nick it with your finger and turn on your high beam, so I trimmed it down. Much better, hasn't happened since then. Anyway, that side's done. Let's see how the throttle side is held together. Without disassembling that internal piece is loosen this, remove that bolt, and just slide this out as a unit. These handguards are getting replaced. They're kind of silly, kind of a joke. All right. See what we got going on for a throttle tube here. I might need to take this apart, right? Get a better view of what's going on before I wreck something. Take a look under there and see how that's held together. Okay, so if you have to take off the throttle tube to get the grip off, that's if you figure out a better way, cool. If not, it's bonded, so I had to take it off, take it over to the belt sander, smooth it down. But if you have to take this off, this is where the Chinese build philosophy changes a little bit. There's one screw at the bottom of this cluster, that holds this together, and it kind of snaps together in the front. Not sure I'm into the whole snapping together thing, but whatever. And then there's 2 tiny little screws that hold this section to this section, and you access them from underneath here. And they're little tiny silver guys, and I mean tiny. If you were to lose those two screws, this whole cluster would fall apart, and you might even lose the ability to use your throttle. That's where their design philosophy is a little different than the Japanese, right? So yeah, two little tiny silver screws go up through this plate. See if you can see it. They go up through these. I don't think you can see it. I can't. It's too dark. Anyway, there's two holes here and over here. The screws go up and into here to secure that. Once you get those two tiny screws off, you can pop this off the top and then loosen this screw, which allows the whole assembly to come off. Different, but yeah. Now the trick is to get these little screws back in without dropping them. Notice the towel. And if you drop something on a gray floor with speckles, it disappears. It's gone. Wherever the 10 millimeters go, that's where they go. So, see if I can get this back together without losing a screw. And here's that tiny little screw going back in, right here. And there's one back here as well. And it's going into plastic. Plastic. And that's the only thing that secures that top switch cluster. Yeah, kind of cheesy. Come on, CFMoto. Take apart a Honda and see how they did it and just do it like that. Okay, it screws back in here and here. Again, that holds this top cluster to the handlebars, but the top cluster covers the screw that you need access to get this apart. Pretty cute. And then this bottom cluster basically snaps in to the top one and has a screw that secures it in the back. So, like that. Then there's a screw back here. This cluster, same way. The front snaps in here. One screw holds it back here. Plastic snaps are a recipe for disaster, but yeah, I don't know. Sorry if I couldn't see that. See the snap right there? Snaps into the front. One screw right there holds it together. My advice is if you could figure out a way to get this grip off and get this shaved down so that it fits inside the Oxford sleeve, don't take this apart. And if you do take this apart, definitely put a towel out to catch anything that may fall out, because there are some tiny screws in there. All right, those of you that are familiar with Oxford, and this is mounted so that when you flip the bike, it's readable, but they include Oxford super glue, which is intended to hold this to the throttle tube. Seems to work pretty good. I've got it on 4 other bikes and hasn't been an issue, as long as you don't get too much clearance here and this is too much of a loose fit. Right now, it's kind of a press fit. It might be good enough without super glue, but I'm gonna put it on anyway. Little trick with super glue from my modeling days is you can stick your finger inside of a plastic bag and smear it around and then slide your grip on. In this case, I'm gonna go with the grip or with the wire feed pointing forward. This is kind of a 1/4 turn throttle, so that's all you're gonna have. And that can rest right above the mount for the loosely right here, maybe with a zip tie, but loosely, so that it can rotate. Should be fine. It's out of the way of the brake. It's out of the way of the handguard. It's out of the way of the buttons. I've actually mounted these with this pointing forward, but it kind of gets in the way of a button here because it sticks out and the wire goes around this way or down. This seems to work on this bike. So let's glue it. All right, she's glued. Just glued, not screwed. I would let that dry for a good 12 hours before trying to go out and do your thing. I'm sure the instructions say do something, but that's what I'm gonna do. This bike's not going anywhere until maybe tomorrow anyway, so Time to put this section back together. This is all together, everything's tight. Screws tight here, screws tight here. Little screws are securing that, big screws securing that. My mental checklist here. And then after it dries, we'll just do the wiring, which is basically plug and play if you have a pigtail down there. In a previous video, I showed you where the accessory pigtail is on this bike. I'm gonna tie into that, but that'll be a little bit later. Stand by. Okay, mounted. Button back up, everything tight. Electrical done down there. Pretty clean. Zip tied it to the existing harness right here. Not too tight though, gotta have enough room for things to move, right? Probably the most important thing when messing with controls is to make sure that your primary controls are not being interfered with, right? And that's gonna come into play on the throttle side more than anything. Gonna have to be able to, rotate your throttle and have it return to close. So that requires you to have a little bit of extra slop in this this cable that heats the throttle side. But yeah, everything, when you cut, as described earlier in the video, when you cut that first section right there off, it's perfect for the CFMoto. So anyway, there you have it. Hopefully this helps someone who might be considering putting Oxford Adventure Premium heated grips on their Ibex 450. Now that I've done that, I'm going to Disneyland. Yay. Come on down to Mike Motorsports. We got an Ibex 450 here ready to go. It's got a SW Motec crash guard system. It's got a skid plate from Temu. It's got a CFMoto touring seat and Westwind rear rack for soft luggage. A GV Tracker aluminum box with mount, Oxford heated grips, copyright, GPS mount, and a WRS touring shield. She's ready to rip.